How's it going, creeps? Welcome to episode 13 of Cinema Creep, a Black Mass Films podcast where we dissect all things vile, disgusting, and downright terrifying in the world of horror cinema. I'm Justin James.
And I'm Andrew Henderson.
And of course, this is a continuation of our October double features. Tonight is, a little bit of a stretch from our last one, but it's still going to be pretty fun. Quick shout out before we dive into that, though, for our sponsor, Everblack Coffee. Go to everblackcoffee.com and order yourself a bag. Seriously, I know we say this every episode, but this is like the only coffee that I really care to buy. It's ethically sourced, premium quality, and it's got a dark twist for all of you horror lovers out there, or just if you like darker themed things in general. So everblackcoffee.com, go grab a bag. You know, Andrew, we eventually need to work on some kind of promo code for Everblack.
That is true. I will have one coming your way for the next episode, and we will hook you up.
Yeah, so that'll be a thing. And get you a little bit of a discount on some awesome coffee. So you want to jump into this news, or do you want me to take this on? It's up to you.
You take this on. because I talked about it originally a couple episodes ago, and you found out more info about it.
Yeah. So a couple episodes back, we were talking about the In Search of Darkness 80s horror documentary. And then Andrew informed me that the dude is trying to get a part 2 in the works. And I was like, well, I can't find anything on it. Well, they have officially dropped the trailer, and I am beyond excited. It's got more people in it this time, like Tom Savini. I saw Robert Englund is in this, and it's 4+ hours again of 80s horror, just goodness. But the cool thing is you can go to their website and pre-order this. It's $70 for the Blu-ray pre-order. But if you pre-order up until Halloween, I think is what the website said, you get 3 posters, an exclusive enamel pin, and you get your name in the credits. And from what I saw, you can choose whether you want it to be as an executive producer, a producer, or just a fan credit.
Yes, so, I'm right here looking at it right now. So fan credit is $70. Associate producer credit's $1,250. Producer is $3,000, and executive producer is $6,000. So if you have the amount of coin to drop down $6,000, I would definitely go after that executive producer credit, because something that is this huge, like In Search of Darkness 1, obviously was major, and In Search of Darkness 2. Helping this film not only be the best it can be by helping this guy get it made, or helping him have the finishing funds for it, and then just your name forever being associated with it, not only through maybe a fan credit, but executive producer credit. That's major.
Yeah. And if you don't have that kind of cash laying around, it'd just be cool for, spending the $70 to have your name as a fan name,
I suggest you go out to somewhere that's going to do some predatory lending, and you take out a subprime loan, or you take out a second mortgage on your home, and you go ahead and you become an executive producer on In Search of Darkness.
Yeah, this is our new segment brought to you by Black Mass Films. This is the Cinema Creep Financial Hour. Refinance your home, become an executive producer on In Search of Darkness Part 2.
Please don't do that.
Seriously, don't do that. I do feel, though, for $70, that fan credit's pretty fucking cool. So...
Yeah, so you guys should definitely hop on that. I think over here at Black Mass Films, we will be either donating or trying to get one of those fan credits ourselves. So,
yeah, that's pretty much it for news. Same as last week, we each picked a film for the October double feature episodes, and we're just going to kind of dive straight into those, because that's really what we focused more on watching this week, right? Is the 2 picks.
What was your film that you picked on our billing for our double feature tonight?
Okay, so I picked 1982's The Slumber Party Massacre, which is why I'm dressed this way. Red t-shirt, denim jacket. All I need now is a nice drill, a big power tool, that isn't supposed to be a phallic symbol by any stretch of the imagination.
All I
actually,
need right now is a nice drill.
A nice big old drill.
That's like what every dad says going into Home Depot. I've said that numerous times.
Every time I go into any store like that, Harbor Freight, Rural King, I don't know if you guys watching even have a Rural King where you guys are, but or Home Depot or Lowe's, I always stop and look at just the random tools, and Katie's like, you don't need that. And then she's like, if you really want it, you'll get it for Christmas. And I'm like, out of all the things that you could get me for Christmas,
I can buy shit to fix the house with.
Yeah, so that's how I know that I don't need it that bad.
If I'm not, point me in the direction of your finest battery drills.
Yeah, if I'm not willing to put it on my Christmas list.
Yeah,
but
no.
For this episode, I probably should have put a really big drill. So if you haven't seen the Slumber Party Massacre, I actually totally slacked a little bit on the notes on my part here, but luckily I do have the good old trusty IMDb open. So if you've never seen the Slumber Party Massacre, the synopsis is a female high school student slumber party turns into a bloodbath as a newly escaped psychotic serial killer wielding a power drill prowls through the neighborhood. So this was directed by Amy Holden Jones. She was credited as Amy Jones, and it was written by Rita Mae Brown. We will touch on the fact that it was written and directed by women as we get further into this, because that actually is kind of a big deal with this film. But yeah, I mean, that synopsis is pretty straightforward. That's what you get. That's what the film is. And it actually doesn't waste any time getting straight into the action. So, do you have any specific thoughts you want to touch on before I dive into some of my actual talking points?
Yeah, I do. I do. So, Slumber Party Massacre is one of those movies that I think is great to add into a double feature, and I'm glad Justin picked it. It's more or less. I don't think it's a movie that takes itself serious. Like, it's not outright comedic, but it's not, in my eyes, like horrific in any kind of way. Maybe it would be to like a newcomer to horror or to like, a younger kid, but anybody that's ever seen any sort of slasher movie, there's not really even a moment that is like overly suspenseful. I'm not saying it's not a good movie, because I do think it's a fun watch, and I do think it's good, and it has one of the best horror titles of all times. I mean, Slumber Party Massacre, sort of like we talked about Drive-In Massacre. These are like amazing titles, right? But
the Sorority House Massacre,
right? I don't know. I just think it's a lot of fun. It's really, really cheesy. It was made in 82, right? So you can tell a lot of influence that John Carpenter's Halloween from 1978 had on this film. Did you notice that at all, Justin?
Oh yeah, well, especially like the early 80s slashers, especially when they started getting into like, suburban settings. I mean, because of course you had your Friday the 13th and stuff, but those are all like set in the woods. Any of the films from like 78, basically after Halloween came out, or from 79 on through the early 80s, even influencing your pick, which we'll get to a little bit. Any of these suburban setting slasher films where you've got high school girls either having sleepovers or hanging out, like you could tell all of that stuff was directly influenced by John Carpenter's Halloween or Black Christmas. 3 years prior to Halloween.
Yeah.
3 or 4, something like that. So a lot of influences from other 80s stuff, but like you were talking about, this movie not really taking itself serious. This is also, it's a satire, basically. This film, it got a lot of criticism for being sexist and objectifying women, because there is actually so much gratuitous nudity, so much gratuitous nudity. What about that nudie, Andrew? What you know about that nudie? But there's so much nudity in this film, and at first you're like, oh, that's a little bit much. But then as the film goes, you can kind of catch on that it's poking fun at the genre and the other films that might have actually been kind of misogynistic. Like there's, the opening shower scene, right? There's literally the camera tilts down on like bare ass for like 3 to 4 whole seconds.
Right. I was like, until see, because I didn't even know prior to looking at your notes, I never really paid attention to who the writer director was of this movie. So I was just always like, they're really putting it out here in this one because, they walk in the showers, right? And she says something about the other girl's breasts, like, hey, your breasts are looking larger and
your tits are getting bigger. And they're all like, who, me?
Yeah.
And all of them.
And I mean, I was watching and it's like, it's always so weird to me when it's like these horror films depict all of these high school girls and they're like, let's show them extra naked for extra, long periods of time. And I'm like, I know they're not really high school age, they're normally over the age of 18, or they should be if they're, nude in these films, but it's always like they're pretending to be high school girls. And then these directors and writers are like, let's get them naked. I'm like, am I the only one that's slightly like weirded out about that? Am I the only person that's kind of like,
right? Well, I think, going back to that same scene, it's mocking those other films for having so much nudity.
This movie was,
but it's also, the things they're talking about, because it's almost like in every other movie back in the 70s and 80s, well, even now, like in the 2020s, a lot of men just have this idea of what they think women talk about and how they think women are, and they're always
how their locker room is. They're all topless all the time.
Yeah, they're all naked and they're talking about each other's bodies, and it's like, so when
they're
they wrote
making
this,
out in the locker room.
Yeah, and it's like, what the hell? So this movie is like poking fun at that entire idea.
When in real life, it's like Carrie, where they're like throwing tampons at each other,
and
making one want to kill themselves. You know what was hilarious about that scene though, that really stuck out to me, Justin, about the shower scene, was when the one girl asked the other girl for the bar of soap and they were sharing soap. I'm like, in what pre-COVID-19 world were you fucking living in where you share a bar of soap? Like,
right.
First of all,
it is funny now when you watch something, even though that was 82, it's like COVID has shaped everything to the point where you're like, why? Yeah. Why are you doing that? What the hell?
You took your mask off to shower? The fuck's wrong with you?
Yeah. Or sharing, passing a joint around the room,
Yeah. Well,
like, so what are you doing?
So literally, guys, in the scene, if you haven't seen it, they're showering, right? Like in a gym class. And the showers have a little wall in between them, so that you can kind of see each other from the shoulders up. I don't know if many of you ever went to high school where you had to take showers. I was always in a school where they had showers in the locker rooms, but we never had to actually shower.
Yeah,
Thank
no one
God.
ever used them.
That would have been just, I don't know why you need to do that when you half-ass play a game of basketball or kickball or whatever, like, why do you need to go shower at school? But regardless...
It's for these movies, man.
Yeah, for these movies. But regardless,
for this and like Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, that's why those showers exist.
Yeah, so Freddy can whip your ass with a towel.
Yeah.
Anyways, they're passing a bar of soap back and forth, and it's just like really, really weird. Like stuff like that sticks out to me. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And it's, like I said, it's just weird how... the shape of the world now just makes us look at things differently. It's like, because not to get like on that subject, but things are always going to be, at least for the next like 5 to 10 years, this is going to be a really weird time, and we're just going to look at things completely differently. But so yeah, so like I said, this film was criticized for being sexist and objectifying women, but it's because a lot of people didn't realize that it was written and directed by women. And even in their, interviews, they're kind of like, if they would have just looked at who wrote and directed it, and then the entire film is just like loaded with feminist overtones. So, it's a good film. It's a satire on the genre. And it's just an all around good time. So another cool thing Go ahead.
No, go ahead. What's your other cool thing?
Oh, I was just going to point out, I've already like pointed out my jacket, but so, this was also in a time where you had all these other slasher films where the murderer was wearing a mask, right?
Right.
And in this, it's like there's no suspenseful, oh, well, who is the guy? Because this starts off with, it cuts to the school and he jumps out of like the utility van and grabs a girl and pulls her into the back and kills her right off the bat. And then he jumps out of the back of the van and he's just a normal looking dude. He's wearing a red t-shirt, a denim jacket, denim pants, and like sneakers. And that's it. But for some reason, he's always sweaty. I guess that's a really warm denim jacket.
I mean, they were obviously in, California somewhere. Palm trees and all that. It had to have been SoCal, right?
Yep.
So I want to touch on exactly what the scene you were just talking about, because I wanted to ask you what your favorite kill in the movie was, what your favorite death scene was. But before you get into it, because you just talked about mine is the maintenance lady or the painter at the beginning of the film that gets killed in the van, because there's a scene in Scream 2. I guess maybe they were paying homage to this film where somebody gets yanked in, I think the news van and gets killed in the news van, Gail Weathers' news van. So, I've always really liked that scene in Scream 2 and, as well as in this movie. So I think it's just one of those things. It goes back to me and Justin talk a lot about not only in our own work, but in certain movies, Halloween 78, where you're getting murdered in daylight where you shouldn't, like all of these ghosts, goblins, demons, and monsters should not be able to get you in the daylight, especially out in public. And when they do, it just makes it all the more frightening, makes it all the more like, real, right? Because that kind of shit happens in real life daily. People get kidnapped, get trafficked, get killed. And historically in horror movies, it's always, at nighttime, in a castle in Transylvania, in the depths of the alley, but anytime it happens in daylight, like in this example, in the school parking lot in a van with people walking, by it, gnarly.
Immediately after he gets out of the van, like now the teens are leaving school and one of them goes back in and then she gets killed in the school, like in the daytime. She's chased through the hallways, through the locker room. She's hiding, but then he finds her and he drills through the door and then he kills her. It's an off-screen death, but it's not like some deep, crazy, like masterpiece of a film. It's just, this is a film that I do watch every year around this time. Because usually I'll try to watch 31 horror films during, October. And this is usually in that queue.
So you didn't answer the question though. What's your favorite scene? What's your favorite death?
My favorite death. That's a tough one because the opening kill is pretty rad, but damn, I don't know. I think my favorite kill, just for the sake of like how goofy and funny the scene is, it's when the two girls are in the upstairs bedroom and they block off the door and he comes through the window. Mm-hmm. And then they're like, oh shit, now he's in here. So then they try to run and they drop the knife that they had to protect themselves. And while the one girl's moving all the furniture from in front of the door, he just picks it up. Russ Thorne's his name, right? Yeah.
So are you asking me? I was gonna say yeah. I didn't know if you were asking me.
Yeah, so he picks up the knife and he just kind of walks it into her as she turns around. And then the other girl just turns around and she's like, fuck you, I'm out. And as she leaves, I just always think it's pretty funny.
That was, that's one of those, again, like you said, being satirical to itself, at the ending scene, guys, a spoiler alert if you haven't seen it. If you haven't, please go watch it. Put it on one of your horror binge nights. It's a good time for sure. But the ending scene where Valerie is basically having that showdown with Russ.
At the pool?
Yeah, the dude with the battery drill, the killer, the slasher in this film, and she has a machete and she chops his big ass long drill bit in half. was like, was pretty hilarious because she chops it in half, it lands in the pool, and then she starts just going ham on him with the machete and like cuts off his hand and like slices him in his stomach and just, it was a pretty good ending to the film, right? Like,
yeah. So I also like the this isn't like a favorite kill, but talking about like the satire. So the one dude, like the boyfriends have now come over and he's trying to get back in the house, and then he kills him right at the door and his blood like runs under the door. But then later the next door neighbor, I forget, it's Valerie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the one that they pick on. So she's now come over to check on them, and there's literal blood on the door and a puddle of blood outside. And her and her sister are looking at it, and then she's like, well, I don't know. What do you think's going on? She's like, I don't know. Something weird's going on here. Why would all the lights be off? Not the fact that there's a big puddle of blood and a bloody handprint smeared on the door.
Right.
So it's just fun. It's a fun film. It's cheesy. It is super cheesy. You can't watch this expecting it to be something serious like Friday the 13th or Halloween or something like that. It is a satire and it plays as such. So
1982. It was a good time.
Yep. So, that's really all I have to say about this. It is a straightforward story, so it's not like we need to sit here and give you a play-by-play. You've got your slasher, which is Russ Thorne. He's an escaped, mental patient, and he's chasing down and hunting and killing these high school girls using a giant power drill. And it plays out much like you'd think it would. And then there's an epic battle at the end, and it's a pretty cool, fun little film. So
what more could you ask for? Right? Like, what more could you ask for in horror? Because that is classic slasher, right there. High school girls getting killed by a guy with a power drill. Like, classic, right? Like, how can you not go wrong there? Or how could you go wrong there? I mean, Justin, I talked about if I could ever remake a movie ever, it would be Driller Killer, like I talked about a couple episodes back. There's a few of those movies, right? And I think this would be a fun one if somebody with the right vision got a hold of it and remade it. Does it need a remake? Not really, but I could see it having a super, super cool remake. Like the next film we're going to talk about on the second slot of our billing. The remake of that one was surprisingly decent. It was surprisingly
we have
decent.
Two differing opinions on that then.
We'll talk about it after this commercial break.
How's it going, creeps? One quick mid-episode break to tell you a little more about our sponsor. Since 2016, Everblack Coffee Company has delivered exceptional single-origin coffee and high fives all over the world. They understand that a cup of coffee is so much more than something you drink. That's why they source their beans from farms that only use fair trade and organic growing practices. When you buy coffee from Everblack, you can be certain that you're getting the highest quality coffee available by ethical means only. It's time to start looking at coffee differently. Head over to everblackcoffee.com and grab a bag for yourself. It's deliciously dark. Now back to the show. Welcome back, creeps. So I wanted to preface this next part with a little bit of a change of heart, I guess. Before we cut away to commercial break, we mentioned very briefly the 2006 remake of this particular film we're about to dive into, and I was talking about how we've got very different opinions because Andrew was hinting towards him liking it. I left for the commercial break saying I didn't really care for it that much. Upon further review, Andrew sent me some of the opening scenes and trailers, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to revisit this. So until a further date, I'm not going to give an opinion on the remake of this because I only saw it when it came out in theaters. I saw it in theaters and I have not watched it since. But watching some of the scenes back, I'm like, okay, maybe this was better than I remember it being.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. 2006. Yeah, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, I've also re-upped on coffee since I gave my opinion 5 minutes ago. So, hey, maybe I was wrong. Better. Feeling a little bit better.
More positivity into the world.
Yeah. So with that being said, you want to carry us into your pick for this week?
Yes. So the second film on our double feature billing tonight is When a Stranger Calls from 1979. So guys, if you want to know what films we are going to review before we podcast them, then you can follow us on our social media platforms, because we usually either hint around or we just come out and say, hey guys, this is what the next episode is going to be on. And you'll get a quick little glimpse into what it's going to be for the week.
Yep. So Cinema Creep Pod on Twitter and Cinema Creep Podcast on Instagram.
Yes, perfectly said, Justin. So the synopsis of this is: during an evening of babysitting, high school student Jill Johnson is terrorized by a caller who keeps asking, have you checked the children lately? When she calls the police, they inform her that the calls are coming from inside the house. Directed by Fred Walton, writers Steve Fake and Fred Walton. That might be Steve Feke. But yeah, so this movie is, I've always enjoyed this film, and I've enjoyed it for a whole bunch of reasons. Reason number one is because before I saw the movie, I heard about the urban legend, right, that this is based upon. Based upon the babysitter babysitting kids, right? Yeah, and the man being upstairs and saying, you need to check the children, and him either being... All right, so hold up. One quick thing. If you guys are watching this on YouTube and you're seeing my lights flicker on and off, the power company is doing some weird stuff. I had them come out and drop my power lines. This is neither here nor there if you're the audio listener. But the video, my lights are flickering on and off, so I got to get the power company out here. They had to take my lines down, put them back up for some tree trimming. Now I'm having power issues. Okay, so... the lady and the man upstairs, urban legend. I always heard about it as a kid, always scared the living shit out of me. And there's a couple different variations of it. Justin, did you ever hear the variation where the man was actually like a clown statue or like a teddy bear statue, or teddy bear, like a stuffed bear or something like that? When the woman would go upstairs to check the room, and she would be like, well... So. You never heard that? Okay, so there's a variation where the man is not actually just in the house. She goes upstairs to actually check the children, and she would call back the parents and be like, well, there's nothing up there but, the clown statue. And the parents were like, we don't have a clown statue. And at that time, the clown starts moving and starts coming after the woman. So really, really freaky shit. But
that's creepy.
Yeah, really creepy stuff, because she keeps going up there and she just sees the clown statue. And then there's another version where it was just a big stuffed giant teddy bear sitting in the corner. And the killer was actually inside the stuffed teddy bear, just chilling. Anyways, so I've always liked this movie for the simple fact of I knew the urban legend as a kid and it frightened me. And on top of that, it has one of the best opening sequences of terror in all of horror, because literally if you just took that first 20 minutes and that was the film, I would be happy. That first 20 minutes is literally all you need of this movie. You could turn it off after that and you would be fine, because the resulting 1 hour and 10 minutes left is okay, right? It's all right, but it's nowhere near as good as the first 20 minutes where you're like, holy shit. Now, Justin, quiz time for you. Early trivia time for you. What movie uses the same synopsis, or at least the same line, have you checked the children?
No, I know what you're about to ask, and you're that's the wrong quote, because I was going to ask you a very similar question. But you're talking about the phone line, right? When the cops tell her that the calls are coming from inside the house.
Yes.
Yeah, it's Black Christmas.
Okay. All right. Yep. Just making sure we're on the same page with that.
He's trying so hard to get me. So I'm imagining during trivia of terror later in this episode, he's going to try really hard to absolutely stump me, because right now I'm undefeated. So now he's even trying to trip me up in the middle. He's trying to trip me up in the middle of episodes now.
Yeah. Now it's coming full force. It is coming full force.
Yeah. But I want to, before we move on real quick, I want to elaborate about the opening scene, because what has always stuck out to me about the scene is, for one, it is, I forget the actress's name. She's done a lot. She's in you know, like Carol Kane. Is it Carol Kane?
She's the
Carol
fucking
Kane.
grandma in the Addams Family. She's Granny in the Addams Family.
Yeah, and she's also in the Princess Bride. So
she's done
there's that.
She's done 2 movies that are worth talking about. This one and the Addams Family. That's it.
Yeah.
That's
hey man, the Princess Bride. I had to throw that in there for the the non-horror people. But so what I was gonna say is that whole opening like 15 minutes or so, she carries that whole scene by herself. Like the only time she interacts with any other actors is during when the parents are leaving and they tell her, the kids have been asleep for a couple hours. Don't wake them. We'll be back if we're not home in like 2 hours. We went to a movie, right? And then the whole rest of the scene is just built on suspense of her chilling in the house, doing random things, getting these phone calls, being asked, have you checked the children?
Sitting in the dark, being scared.
Sitting in the dark, being scared. So it's just 15 minutes of her really selling that terror and suspense. Now, I was also going to point out, if this film would have been a perfect horror film for me, if the entire 90 minutes it starts off the exact same.
Don't you say it. Go ahead and say it.
You don't even know what I was going to say.
Don't you say it. Go ahead.
If it starts off the same, but then as soon as the police tell her the call's coming from the house, now she very Laurie Strode style runs upstairs, gets the kids, which they actually did this in the remake, if I remember correctly. And then it's a cat and mouse game through this huge mansion for the remaining, 70 minutes. Because even though that's like, oh, this whole film takes place in this one isolated incident in this mansion. Yeah, that's fucking like you are experiencing what
That's
these
why I said I like the remake.
experiencing.
That's why I said I like the remake, because
the things I remember I don't like about the remake though is it's not the isolated incident, right? I'm saying this entire movie from beginning to end, because this movie starts with her showing up at the house to babysit.
Yes.
She gets the first creepy phone call 3 minutes in. So I'm saying it all be the same from there, except for, spoiler alert, so hang on. Instead of the children being dead, they're alive, like in the remake. But they're trying to survive.
Look, here is where we disagree a little bit. So it's been a long time since I've seen. It's been a long time since I've seen the remake myself, but I remember liking it. And I remember liking it because of exactly what Justin said. You have the whole cat and mouse game between the stalker and the babysitter, right? But what I do like about the original is the creepy factor that the stalker did kill the children, because when he's calling her, he's like, she's like, what do you want? He's like, I want to be bathed in your blood, or I want your blood all over me, or something like that. Over
me, yeah.
Right. And that is just the creepiest shit, knowing, because then when you see flashbacks later on, he's covered in the children's blood, so I like the fact that it shows right off that he's ruthless, like he's already up there. He's been in the kid's room before the parents even left. That's the creepy part about it. Is like he didn't just get there when the babysitter got there. He's been there, and he's already killed the children. The children have been dead the entire time that the babysitter's been there.
And that is creepy. So I mean, even if we still go by what I was talking about, so maybe the children are dead, and that makes it even scarier, the fact that she's stuck in this house now.
Damn right it does.
For the next 70 minutes, it's a cat and mouse game between him and her. He can set it up maybe to where now he cuts the phone line so she can't call anymore. Well, no, he wouldn't do that, because then he can't call her. But maybe he's got it set up to where, he bolts the door from the outside or something and climbs back in through the window. Just some way to where it's like, so now she's stuck in this house with these 2 dead kids that she was supposed to babysit. And now she's got to survive from this guy. So I don't know. There's different ways you could have taken this, but that is one thing I will credit to the remake, because I do remember liking that aspect of it, at least, that we're getting to see her trying to survive, because I do vaguely remember, that cool ass greenhouse like in the middle of the mansion or whatever.
Right. Well, I mean, with the kids being alive, the stakes are higher. She has more to lose, right, than if it was just her. So that does make sense, but it definitely makes it way creepier.
But yeah, tell me if you were trapped in a... So like, what is scarier? If someone is trapped in their house trying to protect kids, or they're trapped in a house with no way out trying to survive themselves, but they know that in one of the rooms in this house, there are 2 dead children. Like...
Yeah, I don't know, man, because it all depends. You're also with 2... Like, I mean, it's bad to say. We all want to play Superman, but you're also there with 2 strangers' kids. If you're there with your kids, yeah, that's the ultimate scariest position in the world. But you're there with just like 2 strangers' kids. It's like, fuck. I've got a family. I got to get up out of here. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's hard to say which one is more frightening. Like either trying to protect somebody else's children from being killed, or knowing that you're in a house where people are being killed and you're the only one left alive. So you're the single prey left in that house.
Yep.
So yeah, it's a great movie. If you haven't seen it, I will tell you guys that, like we talked a little bit about Black Christmas, that is probably one of my favorite horror movies. So that is something we're going to dive deeper into in another episode. But yeah, so this and that movie have a lot of similarities. Black Christmas, I think, is the superior one of the 2, but
same.
This movie's pretty good. A couple interesting things about it, Justin. The THX deep note sound.
Yes.
You notice that right away when you watch the movie. You're like, that's that sound that THX uses, and then they kind of just throw like a variation on the end of it.
Yeah, it's most noticeable when like he calls the last time as she closes the window.
Right.
Yeah.
See, I don't know,
or she pulls like the wooden blinds.
I haven't done much research on that, but I don't know if that was a thing. Like, because you remember when they were starting to play it before every movie, right? Mm-hmm. They would play that sound with the THX logo, but I don't know if that was a thing before this or if that eventually became a thing. But
I don't know.
I was like, wow, that's lazy. If they just took that and included that, or like incorporated that into the score, I was like, that's kind of shitty. So I thought the score was kind of weak, especially in that regard, which isn't like something that does it's not so weak that it takes you out of the movie, but like you definitely notice that, and every time it came up I kind of just like rolled my eyes like, oh, here we go with this. It doesn't deliver the right emotion that it should. Yeah, when that sound comes on. I can
agree with that,
because you automatically associate it with, it'd be like playing the 20th Century Fox sound, the drum roll, the trumpets and the drum roll or whatever. Yeah, like in the middle of a horror movie, or like in the middle of like a battle scene, like a Roman battle movie, you'd be like, all right, I know what this is. You guys are just reusing some shit. The phone number of the house where the character Jill Johnson, played by Carol Kane, is babysitting, Justin, 555-2368, is reportedly the same house phone number used in Jamie Lee Curtis's house in the movie Forever Young, starring Mel Gibson.
Yep.
It's also used in Spielberg's movie Encounters of the Third Kind, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and Ghostbusters, right? So 555-2368. You should call that with your area code and see who picks up.
Yeah, we should make that the new 867-5309.
We should make that the Cinema Creep call-in line number. You guys can call us at 555-2368.
Yep.
Leave a voicemail. And
standard minutes and data rates apply.
Yeah, we'll play your request on the air. Yeah, so on top of that, Justin, favorite scene of this movie? What was it? Or do you want to talk about the rest of the 110 minutes of this film? We'll go into that real quick, and then I want your favorite scene. So after the first 20 minutes, which is the meat and potatoes of this film, you have they go into this thing where they explain about how the guy gets put into the penitentiary, right? Because he gets caught by the police after he kills the children. He gets put into a penitentiary or like an insane asylum, and then he escapes. So the Mandrakes or the Mandrakes, or I can't remember how to say their name. I think that's even like a thing in the movie where the babysitter can't say their name.
She pronounces it wrong. Yeah, it's like you keep going where you are, and then
it doesn't matter. Anyways, so they hired this investigator guy, this private investigator, to track down the killer because they heard that the killer of their children escaped.
Mandrakis,
and so he's this portly detective fellow that is trying to track down Tony Beckley is the actor's name that plays the stalker. What's his name? What is even the guy's name?
Kurt Duncan.
Okay, Kurt Duncan. That's right. Plays Kurt Duncan in the movie, and they have their cat and mouse thing, right? Because he's out. He's basically trying to. It seems like he's trying to search for Jill Johnson. Because he wants to terrorize her more. So this is where this has a lot of similarities with Halloween, Justin, from 78 to 79, because you have the killer that originally goes after somebody, and then he breaks out of the penitentiary, and just like Loomis is trying to track down Michael Myers, this PI is trying to track down Duncan, and the same way that Michael Myers is trying to go after Laurie Strode over all the Halloween filmography is the same way that Duncan's going after Jill Johnson in this movie, because he is waiting. And I think it's 7 or 8 years later, Jill Johnson has her own children. She's married, and Duncan is going to find her to basically try to terrorize her. Now, I will say,
real quick, I actually did find very odd that she has like no signs of PTSD at all, goes about her life, starts a family, has 2 kids of her own, doesn't act like she has any PTSD at all until they're at a restaurant having dinner and she gets a phone call and it's Kurt Duncan and he says, "Have you checked the children?"
Yes.
Then it's like, oh my God, this has haunted me my entire life.
Let me tell you this, because this is the thing, Justin. Like, I understand, okay, you don't have PTSD, you're iron-willed, you grew past it, whatever, you accepted it happened. But in what world would you be the babysitter of 2 children, leave, and you know that you were babysitting them and they died? In what world would you have your own 2 kids and you would leave them at home with a babysitter?
Right,
like,
that's what I'm saying.
That's
like
tempting
it didn't
fate.
happen.
That is tempting fate.
It didn't even happen until then she gets the phone call, and then it's immediately now she's falling apart, and this has been a thing that's haunted me my entire life, so.
Yeah, so of course there's a couple other weird little things that happen. With Duncan, he goes and he tries to go after this other woman that he meets in a bar, and whatever. He's ultimately trying to get to Jill Johnson, which is the babysitter from the beginning. So I will tell you what makes watching this movie all the way through, Justin, though, is the creepy ending at the end of the film. Do you know the part I'm talking about?
That last shot?
Well, almost the very last shot. So here's the thing. So Jill Johnson's at home, right? And this is after they rush home from the restaurant because she thinks that the man's in her house. The police come and they're like, "Oh, well, he's not in here, whatever. He's just calling you," right? So she's in bed and she hears somebody mumbling from the closet, and you're already like, "Oh, fuck, that's Duncan in the closet. Here he goes. This is no." And so she tries to shake her husband awake. And then the scene where her husband turns around and looks at her, and it's not her fucking husband, it's Duncan that's been laying in bed next to her the whole entire goddamn time, is fucking terrifying. That shot is terrifying. So that's fucking terrifying. And the mumbling coming from the closet is actually her husband that Duncan basically
knocked out, or
he like knocked him out because he's still like, I want to say he's still alive. It never shows that he actually died.
He's just like mumbling, unconscious, kind of in the closet.
But then she starts screaming like he was dead after he falls out of the closet. Oh, let's go back. I'm sorry. I want to rewind all the way back real quick because
time to take it back.
I just thought about it. So let's go all the way back to Slumber Party Massacre because we're talking about similarities with 1978's Halloween. How about when they go in the garage, she gets killed in the car, just like in Halloween, right?
Yeah.
How about when that person swings down from the rafters upside down the same way that... what is the name of the person in Halloween that swings down when she opens the fucking cabinet door upside down?
Bob
It is Bob, isn't it? Yeah. So,
which real quick, since you threw it back to that, I wanted to point this out before we left Slumber Party Massacre, and then I forgot about it because I should have put it in the notes. You're asking me about my favorite kills. Now, the two that got killed, like out, they were in the car fooling around. That's not my favorite kills, but it sets up one of my favorite lines. So actually, I think my favorite kill is the pizza delivery guy. Because did you notice the dialogue when he shows up? The pizza guy's already dead. He drilled through his eyeballs. But
right.
So they're like, what they say, what's the damage? Like, which those of you who don't know, in the 80s and 90s, like I even still use that. It means, how much does it cost? So they're like, what's the damage? And then you hear him say 6 so far. That's actually the killer, and he's killed 6 people. And then when they open the door, they're like, "Oh, it's $6." They open the door, and the pizza guy's standing there, and his eyes have been drilled through, and then he falls dead. And they're like, "Oh shit!" So
there's so many similarities between
Stranger Calls.
Guys, when you either pay close attention and you watch horror movies with an analytical mind, or you just catch on a lot of these things, you notice that they are literally just paying homage to or directly ripping each other off. Because even in Driller Killer, Abel Ferrara, he plays the main, he plays I don't want to call him protagonist, he plays the main villain, the main character. He realizes that he has an affinity for his power drill because he is drilling a peephole for his roommate because she is all like spaced out, and she's like, "Oh, I want my peephole here." So he goes to drill in the door, and she's like, "No, I want it here." And he goes to drill in the door. So it's like a real close-up shot, like it's a major thing in that movie where you see him drill in that peephole for her. Also in Slumber Party Massacre, she goes to her house and they're drilling a peephole. So I mean, it's like, that's not like something that you would just coincidentally include, right? In these films, it is literally paying homage to or directly ripping off. And same with The Stranger Calls. This admittedly was told from the writers that they made this they made it based upon the urban legend. They made it into, I guess it was like a short, but then they decided to expand upon it once they saw the success of Halloween. And that's what made them want to make it the 120 or 110 minute film or whatever the hell it is, 130. Oh my God. Yeah, 130 minute long feature that it is. Which it's worth it. It's, it turns from like straight.
Long? I thought it was just a typical like 90-minute film.
Yeah.
Or you meaning to say hour and a half? You were thinking 130?
That's why my head was blowing the hell up when I was like, what am I talking about?
I got you. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm your co-host.
That's why you got me for math.
Yeah. I'm actually terrible at math, but
whatever. We don't need a math. We have a podcast.
Least favorite subject.
Yeah. I mean, that's why our financial stuff from the beginning was so short. The financial hour was 5 minutes.
Yeah. Refinance your house.
But so now you fucking sidetracked me. What was I talking about?
That's also why I'm here.
Yeah.
The success of Halloween.
Yeah, so the success of Halloween really played not only a pivotal part in so many movies, but like directly into this one. And they're on record with saying like, look, we decided to go after this because we saw the success of Halloween. And that's basically what Sean S. Cunningham said with Friday the 13th. Like, oh shit, we saw the success of Halloween, so Friday the 13th was a cash grab. Because they were like, well, we can make a holiday movie too. Watch this. And then Friday the 13th.
Well, they made a trailer for Friday the 13th, or like a promotional poster before they even made the film.
They had an ad in the newspaper for Friday the 13th before they even had anything. Before they even had a script. Before they had a film. They were just like, let's see what happens if we do this. And it got so well received. They're like, oh, we got an idea here. So it was basically like what we do in modern day times. Like, let's make a mock trailer, or let's, like film a trailer for a movie we haven't shot yet just to see what people think about it. And then if it's well received, then you're like, I'm going to invest some cash in this. But, yeah, so, like I said, the ending scene is really gnarly in When a Stranger Calls. So is the first 20 minutes. And there's some good parts in the center. Like, I liked a lot of the compositional decisions by the director, Walton. Some of the cinematography is really good, especially when Jill Johnson's character is like walking through the streets. Like, I really thought a lot of those night shots, those exterior night shots, were really amazing. And they're not as good as like Bava's Demons, like the opening sequence to that. Do you remember how good that looks, Justin? Like the whole subway scene and all that. But they kind of reminded me a little bit of that. And, with just having the detective sort of middle section, the sort of whodunit kind of thing, which is not a whodunit because you know who the killer is throughout, but you kind of have like the detective chasing the guy. And when you add that in horror, you always kind of get a little bit of a Giallo-esque type of feel.
Yeah,
and
it's very Argento, like deep red Argento.
It was gnarly. It's a good film. If you haven't watched it, like I said, it is both of these. Surprisingly, Slumber Party Massacre, like you would expect it to just punch you in the freaking mouth. And it does, but then it slows down. Like, it slows the fuck down, like during the second act. And then doesn't really pick back up until a little bit after the midpoint, and then the third act and the climax, it punches you in the mouth again. Whereas A Stranger Calls comes out the gate with an uppercut, and then it just slows down for like an hour. And then at the end, you're like, holy shit, I'm glad I watched this entire movie.
Yeah, it basically knocks you out. Then when you come to, it's like, oh, I'm sorry, are you okay? Are you okay? And then by the time you're finally okay again, it kicks you in the balls.
You're like, oh, no, I'm not, because I'm deaf because of the constant THX deep note score that they got going on.
Dude, when I was a kid, when that used to come on before the Star Wars remasters, I used to try to do it and like hold the note as long as it holds out, and I just never could do it. Yeah.
Will you do me a favor? Somewhere in this podcast, will you include that sound?
Note. I'll do it right here. Hang on.
All right, guys, so that was that sound. So I don't know if you remember hearing that being played in front of some of your favorite movies, but it was quite distracting for me. I don't know about maybe for you, Justin. I don't know how you felt on it, but like I said, it kind of would like take me out of the movie for a second. I'm like, what is that? It was kind of weird.
Yeah, it was kind of random. Now, I do want to, like, I'm going to eventually research on this. It doesn't really matter for the podcast, but it does have me curious to know now. Was that like, is that something that THX sampled, or did that exist before this movie used it? Or was that like some stock audio that like was being shared around back in the day? Because, the Wilhelm scream, which I'll insert right here, is featured in a lot of films like Star Wars and, most notably Star Wars, but that's in films all over the place, and it's just the stock sound.
Oh, yeah, you got to love that Wilhelm scream. And that's the thing, too. Guys, if you know about any of this super awesome knowledge, drop some knowledge in the comments on YouTube, or like I said, you can email us and write us a very long tirade about why we're wrong, or things that you think we should know. But Justin, that rounds it out, man. I think, like I said, I think there's just two solid films. If I saw these playing at the local drive-in, I would be super stoked to pull in there and watch these back to back. I think these are two films that you could show everybody, show your grandparents, show your children as young as 5.
I wouldn't show your children When a Stranger Calls.
Show your children as young as 5 When a Stranger Calls. And then, I think it's time for some trivia of terror.
Yep, it is that time. So I'm actually going to go first tonight because I've got 3 questions for you. You were riding me last week about not having any questions prepared. Well, I got you tonight.
Yeah, so Justin did what he's supposed to do and actually prepared some questions. So we'll see how my record goes, because I know what he's trying to do. Since his record is, I don't know what it is. He hasn't missed one yet. By the way, his Tremors thing was slightly wrong, but he was right about it being a Wild West.
Well, I told you, I said it's Tremors 4, but I don't know if it's Back to Perfection, which is actually part 3. The tagline or Back to Perfection is part 3, right?
You were kind of right. It was right. I was right.
It was Tremors 4, regardless of what it was called.
But so I know what he's going to do. He's going to try and give me some extra hard ones so he can remain the reigning champ. So give me your first one.
These are actually fairly easy.
You give me
the one on here,
and I'll give you one, and we'll switch.
All right, I'm going to give you this one first because this is probably the hardest on here. It's not even that hard. All right. In the 1977 film, The Hills Have Eyes, the father and 3 sons are named after what kind of celestial bodies? You have 30 seconds and go.
And what kind? They're named after what kind of celestial bodies?
Yes.
They are named after the constellations.
Is that your final answer?
Well, now you got me. No, they're named after galaxies.
Is that your final answer?
That's my final answer, galaxies. Damn it. Constellations.
They are named after planets.
Oh. Hold on, because...
You got Papa Jupe, man.
I'm trying to remember what the hell their names were. Okay, all right, so you're first.
That was the hardest of the 3.
I should have known that. I blanked on that one.
In his defense, all of you that judge Andrew for missing any of these questions, I want you to think of any topic that you think you're super knowledgeable about, and have your friends write you some super in-depth trivia and give you a 30-second time limit.
No, I should have known that.
See how well you do.
That one wasn't even that hard. I should have known it.
Fine, I was trying to be... Yeah, you should have fucking known that.
No, I should have known that. All right, so here we go. First question for Justin is, name 3 horror movies that take place in the suburbs.
In the suburbs.
Yes, not including Halloween. You don't get that one. That's too damn easy.
Okay. All right. In the suburbs. Well, we're going to go with the Slumber Party Massacre.
Okay.
Then we are going to go with...
It's easy for you to cheat like hell, as we just talked about 2 of them.
I'm not going to use When a Stranger Calls. So you got the Slumber Party Massacre. You've got... this is harder now because I'm thinking of movies. I'm like, it's not the suburbs though.
Well, you got 15 seconds. You better pick it up.
Oh, shit.
10 seconds. Think about
I'm going to miss a question.
Think about it. This
Gremlins.
is simple.
Gremlins.
5 seconds. What'd you say?
Gremlins.
Okay. Well, you're out of time now.
Son of a bitch.
So, Justin, think about it. You've got 5 seconds.
I was going to say Fright Night also.
You got Fright Night, Nightmare on Elm Street, Scream.
Yeah, well, see, that's what I'm saying. When you're thinking of it's like it's hard whenever you're being on the spot. I was even looking at my movies. I was like,
when you're put on the spot, it's kind of rough. All right, what's your next one for me?
All right, so I officially have missed a question now. I ran out of time. So it's a technicality. That's what we're going to go with.
It's a technicality.
All right.
No, you fucking missed it. You couldn't think of the answer in the time limit. It's a technicality.
Okay, you got me. Okay, what 1981 film was hailed by Stephen King as the most ferociously original horror film of the year? What? I am serving this one to you on a silver fucking platter.
1981.
I'll give you a hint that will not make sense to the listeners or viewers. You kept asking me earlier when I was writing my questions down what I was looking at. So there's something in my...
Oh, Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
No, but
What?
No, listen.
That's not even from 81. That's not from 81.
Yeah, but the reason I'm not going to count that as a wrong answer is because you haven't been in the studio since the other one went up.
Oh, you freaking jerk. You freaking jerk.
So, your time limit actually starts right now. I'll repeat the question. What 1981 film was hailed by Stephen King as the most ferociously original horror film of the year?
Why did I say Texas Chainsaw Massacre? That's
because you thought I was looking at the Texas Chainsaw Massacre poster.
Poster's right there. 1981. Now you got me just thinking about what posters you bought. Stephen King, 1981, ferociously. Best film. I honestly, if this one's easier, I don't know what
it is, because if I tell you the answer, you're gonna be like, what the fuck?
I don't know what movie Stephen King thought was the best fucking movie of 1981.
I'll do you a favor like you've done me and give you a hint. Do you want a hint?
I'm phoning a friend. I am phoning a friend.
The second installment in this trilogy is the best.
Gremlins?
No.
I mean, there's so many movies like that.
We've talked about this before. We've done a whole episode on this.
Halloween?
No.
What do you want from me?
I want you to get a right answer. I'm trying to serve this to you.
Evil Dead?
On a silver platter.
Evil
Dead? Yes. The Evil Dead. I'm giving it to you, damn it. You will take this correct answer. And you will...
You had me so fucked up because you're like, I have the poster in my studio, and then you're like, well, you haven't been over here since I've actually had it hung up, and then you're like, well, the second movie is the best one, and it's like, well, I could tell you how many sequels I prefer.
But you got it.
Now that you say that, though, I should have known. Well, I remember us talking about Stephen King being head over heels for Evil Dead.
Yeah.
Whatever. I'm sucking at these questions.
I'm giving it to you.
All right. Okay, here we go. All right, Justin. We talk about these kind of films a lot, and we have a love-hate relationship with them. Name 5 horror comedies in 30 seconds. That means you have 6 seconds to name each one. So go.
So these are like strictly horror comedies.
Horror comedies.
So things like Evil Dead 2 don't count, right?
No, Evil Dead 2 does count. That's one.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna go with Evil Dead 2. I'm gonna go with Frankenhooker.
2.
I'm gonna go with Scary Movie.
Okay.
That's a horror comedy.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with oh my god, Shaun of the Dead.
Okay. Give me one more. Give me a good one.
Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
Okay, that's 5. That was a pretty easy question.
Yep.
All right, what's my last one?
All right, here we go. This one is either you're gonna be like, what? Or you're gonna be like, oh. Or you're gonna be like, oh my god, I know it, but I can't think of the name. All right, you ready?
Yep.
What 1988 film has the tagline, Angela is having a party. Jason and Freddy are too scared to come, but you'll have a hell of a time.
That is... I know that tagline. That is... Oh, what is that? That's, Shit, it's on the tip of my tongue. Angela... I thought it was going to be Sleepaway Camp, but it's not.
Yeah, it's not. The Angela was going to throw you off, but it's not.
I know what it is. I can see it in my head. Is it Night of the Creeps or...
Oh, you're close. You were close. It's
Night of the Demons.
Creeps.
Demons.
Yes.
Demons. Night of the Demons.
Thank you.
Yeah.
He got it, guys.
Yeah.
He got it.
Yeah.
He got it.
I knew it was
on
the tip of my tongue.
Are you wearing that Reanimator shirt?
I am.
Are you wearing that sick-ass Reanimator shirt? Hell yeah.
I am. All right. So this one's going to be a little bit harder. Because this is gonna.
Oh my god! Here we go.
This is gonna. delve into some knowledge here, right? So if you're a listener,
doesn't matter. I've already been knocked off my pedestal.
Listen, if you're a listener and you know this question, then we're proud of you, and let us know that you knew it in the YouTube comments, and maybe we'll send you something cool for knowing this, because Justin may know it, but I think this one's a little bit harder. 1991, The Silence of the Lambs takes place in what U.S. city?
Oh my fucking God. I literally just watched Silence of the Lambs like 2 weeks ago. And now I can't fucking remember.
I'm going to find an interesting hint to give you, because I like fun hints. I don't like
I'm a phone in a friend, man.
Any ideas? I'll accept one wrong answer.
Nope, I'm phoning in a friend.
Okay, you're phoning in a friend. Now, do you want a fun hint, or do you want a...
How many hints do I get?
You can have 2.
Give me a fun hint.
All right. Let me see. This band is pretty popular in not things that we necessarily listen to, but you know this band, and the band is all-time low, and they're from this city.
Oh, Baltimore.
Look at you. Baltimore, Maryland. How did you know that band was from there?
Because I like All Time Low. Well, they're old stuff. Now they're like a pop band.
Why didn't I tell you? I have a whole list of people.
They have a fucking song called "Do It for Baltimore." You screwed up. You underestimated the fact that I listened to.
You underestimated my pop punkness.
Yeah, dude. Don't make me go get a Hawaiian shirt with my khaki shorts and my Vans.
Well, would you have known if I would have told you that Babe Ruth was from there or lived there in 1930s, 1940s?
Nope.
What about American Pleasure Club?
No.
Yep. So,
but yeah. So
we all know that Justin is a diehard All-Time Low fan. So if you are too,
no, I didn't say Die Hard. Now they're like
he said he said Die Hard. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he said Die Hard. All-Time Low. So nothing wrong with that. You do you, Justin.
I'm not a Die Hard All-Time Low fan.
You do you. Do you want to serenade us out with some All-Time Low? Do you want to sing?
I'll put some. Dear Maria, count me in at the end of this song or this podcast.
All right, guys. So that basically was a debacle of trivia. My mind was all over the place, and Justin finally missed some questions. So we stumped him on this one. Again,
I missed a question.
If you play along, let us know in the comments on YouTube. Let us know if you hit us up on any of our social media channels. Everywhere, I am at Drucifer. That is DREWXCIFER. That's YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. You can get on there and make fun of me for missing the Hills Have Eyes question and for saying that Texas Chainsaw was from 81, because that is the dumbest shit I've probably ever said on this podcast. And Justin, where can we find you at?
All right, so my Instagram is Dawn of the Living Dad. My Twitter is HorrorDad13. And Black Mass Films is at Black Mass Films on everything. And if you want to follow this podcast on Twitter, that is Cinema Creep Pod. And our Instagram is Cinema Creep Podcast. So go follow that shit.
Yeah, and that's about out, Justin. Hit us with that THX sound effect one more time.
All right, here we go. It's going. It's still going. It's probably still going at this point. Pretty sure it's still going. And if it is, I'm going to cut it off right here because that's the end of the podcast. So we will catch you guys next week for another double feature.
See ya.
See ya.